Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview for actually several upcoming films, getting some updates for Father Stu, Fantastic Beasts 3, and also for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which we finally have some early projected numbers for, and it is expected, at least early on, to be a pretty massive success and could potentially, similar to my thoughts about the Batman projections, could potentially be the next billion-dollar film. But of course, the Batman ended up not going that way. So the same could be said for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, though I do think that the Doctor Strange film has probably a little bit more universality in its audience, or rather, reach in its audience, as it likely will be a little bit more light-hearted than the Batman is. Even though the Batman is a PG-13, it's definitely very hard PG-13, where I don't recommend bringing kids to it, where Doctor Strange is going to be your typical Marvel fare, and I'm imagining that most families are going to be totally fine bringing their kids to go see it, regardless of what they might hear about it. So before we go any further, though, into these numbers, these updated numbers for a couple of films and these first numbers for Doctor Strange, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So if you have not checked out my Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review, I just posted that last night. I gave my first initial reactions immediately after coming out of the theater and running up the stairs of the parking complex, which is why I'm out of breath in that video. So if you want to check that out, I posted that last night. I also probably will have it pinned up in the video somewhere over here. But anyway, I personally was not a big fan of the film. In fact, I fell asleep. The cleaning crew actually had to come and wake me up. Towards the end of the film, I fell asleep. So not really my cup of tea, but a lot of people in the comments disagree with me there. And so I think a lot of people are going to enjoy the film more than I did. But there are some films, though, that I am both looking forward to and also dreading. So one of the films that I'm looking forward to, I actually just bought my ticket for it as I was waiting for the film to start last night, was for Father Stu. So Father Stu is indeed coming out this coming weekend and is expected to open up to around $3 to $7 million with a total domestic range of $11 to $26 million. This is actually an 8% drop in both categories, so things not looking very good for the Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson film. And if the film is good, I'm going to be promoting. I mentioned this with The Northman, right? The Northman is good, especially since The Northman has $90 million in a budget, whereas Father Stu is closer to the $20 to $40 million range. Either way, those are films, for Father Stu, it does not need to make as much money in order for it to be able to hit that break-even point, be able to make its money back and make a little bit of profit, which, of course, is the ideal for any film. But hopefully the film is good, and if it's good, I would be happy to promote that film, so that way it can get a little bit more eyes on it. With the small reach that I have on this channel, if I can at least get a few extra people going to see a film if it's really good, that is something that I would love to do. But Father Stu, not looking very good in its opening weekend, and it makes sense because it is competing up against films like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, films like Morbius, though Morbius is not expected to do very well this weekend in comparison. You also, of course, have the upcoming release of Fantastic Beasts coming out over Easter. Oddly enough, can't believe next week is Easter. This Lent has flown by. By the way, Blessed Passion Week to everybody. And it's going to be interesting to see how well or how not well the Fantastic Beast film plays with the Easter crowd. And it's also interesting that I don't think there is a Easter-specific film set to come out this year, which is interesting because I feel that there's almost always an Easter-specific film, whether it's an animated film about bunnies or whether it is a generic Christian Pureflix film. It's just interesting that is the case. I think Father Stu is probably the closest that we're going to get to a somewhat religious story coming out around the time of Easter, I guess. So I am excited, though, to be able to see that because, Mark Wahlberg is very passionate about his faith, very public about his faith. And one of the things I liked was he did an interview with a YouTube channel I follow called Pints with Aquinas, and it's really good religious commentary, theological commentary. And in it, Mark Wahlberg said basically he wanted to use the platform that he has as an actor, right? The name recognition that he has as an actor to tell a story that otherwise would not be able to really be told, because why would Hollywood care at all about the conversion story of a boxer turned to priest, turned to finding out he has a debilitating illness, and the road that person's going to go on, right? That doesn't really sound like something that a lot of Hollywood studios would really want to sink their teeth into. Now, if you have a major actor like Mark Wahlberg behind it, that is obviously going to be a lot a lot better of an idea. And when you can get Mel Gibson on as well in an acting role, when he's not directing or producing the film, I think that that's also a pretty good sign. So I'm really hoping the film is good, because I would really like to help promote this film do a little bit better than it is projected to make, because, as again I said, it has dropped in its projections. Fantastic Beasts 3, or The Secrets of Dumbledore. I wonder which secret's going to be revealed. It can't possibly have to do with identity politics at all. But the opening weekend is actually expected to do a little bit better, expected to open to $48 to $58 million. Just for comparison's sake, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is north of that, is expected to open up north of $60 million. So obviously you can see that this franchise has definitely fallen a lot, has also reached the law of diminishing returns, where every single film is going to do a little bit worse. But this film has a lot going against it for a lot of different reasons, right? So one, you've got, I would call, the small fringe minority group of people that hate J.K. Rowling because of her quote-unquote transphobic comments, who are going to be boycotting the film. And to be honest, I don't think that they really would have constituted much of the film's revenue anyway. And I do call them a fringe minority because they might be vocal on Twitter, but I don't really think that they have much of an impact. Now, there is a much larger group, though, that I think will boycott this film or will not see this film, and that is the large group of people who are not happy with the fact that they have replaced Johnny Depp's character with another actor because of the so-called controversy with Amber Heard, while Amber Heard is going on continuing to act and continuing to have a career, even though when you read the stories and the accounts and the court case, you recognize that both of them are kind of just weird, despicable people in different ways, but she's kind of cuckoo herself, and yet nothing happens to her, right? So it's this weird aspect of cancel culture where if you're on the right team, as it were, you somehow get protected, where if you're not, you get shafted. And even though I'm not a fan of the role that Johnny Depp had in the film, I just am tired of him playing those weird roles altogether. And Mads Mikkelsen, who's replacing him, is a brilliant actor, and I think he'll do a great job with the role, and probably should have gotten the role in the first place. I can understand why people would be either hesitant or would want to boycott this film for that specific reason, and that makes sense to me. So I think that is going to have a much larger impact on the film itself. Not to mention, of course, the whole Ezra Miller controversy, as he apparently has a central role in this film, and obviously Ezra Miller is not hot right now in the media's portrayal. So $48 to $58 million is its projected opening weekend, with $108 to $138 million in its expected to domestic total by the end of its run. We still do not have a box office number. We don't have a production budget number for this film yet. But what I can say for the film, though, as far as its marketing campaign, is they are really digging in deep, because when I saw Sonic the Hedgehog 2 last night, what they decided to do in their most recent marketing campaign is they basically decided to use member berries to try and boost the level and boost the numbers to this film. And that tells me that this film is in trouble. The marketing campaign put together basically a sizzle reel of all of the great moments throughout the Harry Potter franchise. And so it shows all these clips from the original Harry Potter films. They sneak in some of the Fantastic Beasts films too, but they really focus more so on the Harry Potter stuff. And then it leads into this trailer and promotion for, saying, continue with the, to find out who the first army of Dumbledore was. They're really trying to push that angle, and it might work on some people, but I think other people are going to catch that and say, Warner Brothers, you seem a little bit desperate here. The lady doth protest too much, one might say. So this film, though, with no production budget given at this point in time, hard to say whether or not the film will be a flop, but seeing that this film likely will cost somewhere around $200 million plus, it's going to need to make close to $500 million to break even. And yeah, it could happen, but I think there's a lot of things working against it. I've already talked about some of these other numbers. So again, the Northman, $90 million budget. That means that this film needs to make a heck of a lot more than what it's projected to make, not just domestically, but worldwide. But let's talk about the newest number we have here, and it's pretty massive. We got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness set to come out beginning of May, and yeah, expected to open up to $165 million to $205 million domestically, with its total domestic range expected to be $400 to $535 million. Now, one thing that's important to note is, Spider-Man No Way Home got to $800 million domestically. So this film is expected to do $300 to $400 million less than Spider-Man No Way Home. And this is really going to be the first major test for the MCU, because this is the first real Disney MCU film that we've had since last year's Eternals. And if you remember, last year, the only film out of the 3 that they released in theaters that clearly made money and clearly made profit at the box office specifically, again, Black Widow is kind of a weird scenario because of the Disney Plus numbers, but then there's also the lawsuit, and there's also questions about how much they spend on marketing and how much they actually get from from the Disney Plus numbers, and also like whether the Disney Plus numbers are even accurate in the first place. So there's a lot of questions with that film. Eternals, downright flopped, downright lost money because of how much money they put into that film. So this is going to be that first real test to see if the MCU still has really any swagger to it, still has any real bite to it whatsoever. Because Spider-Man: No Way Home was a Sony film, right? It was primarily a Sony film. 75% of the money put into it was from Sony. 75% of the profit went to Sony. So it was a Sony product, though of course based in the MCU as well. But this is really that first test of the pure Disney MCU film and whether or not it's going to be able to do well enough to break even. So we also still do not have any numbers on this film. But again, I can't imagine that this film costs less than $200 million either. So a $500 million production, or rather $500 million break even point means it's very likely that this film will indeed hit its break-even point and will make some money. But that's really going to depend on a lot of different factors. If they're able to keep up the hype, really, I think they're going to try and borrow from the Spider-Man No Way Home hype and hope that kind of carries over, is my expectation of what they're going to try and do. Also, there are certain people attached to this film that I think might bring some people out, including people who have kind of written off the MCU because it's really fully embracing the MCU, as it were. One of those factors could be the fact that Sam Raimi is directing this film. There's a lot of Sam Raimi fans out there. Also, of course, you do have Benedict Cumberbatch, and there are a lot of people that are just a fan of his and his acting style. One thing of note that I found interesting is that the music is being done by Danny Elfman. I don't remember if he had done the original Doctor Strange film's score or not, but it's cool just to see that name listed. So there are certain factors, there are certain names mentioned that I think could bring some people out, could lead to this film actually reaching those numbers of projection. But it is interesting because this is going to be that first test. What do I think is going to happen? I think that this is totally plausible. I think that there are enough normies out there who don't know much about what's going on behind the scenes, who don't care at all about the MCU, who don't care at all about the identity politics that's being shoved down our throats in so many of these Disney products. They don't care about the fact that Bob Chapek and so many other of these studio executives for Disney have been pushing for, basically pushing against bills that they themselves haven't even read in Florida, as one indication. So basically, they are likely going to go see this film regardless of any of those things, whereas those that kind of know what's going on and have an idea of how evil a company Disney truly is, not just with stuff going on here stateside, but also especially their workings with the Communist Party in China. Again, all the studios work with the Communist Party in China, but Disney, I would say, is probably the closest in their relationship, just based on the number of films of theirs that get released in that country and just other things that have happened. The way they're so willing to edit their films and censor their films on a dime instead of having a backbone and standing up for what they believe in. All the while, of course, providing millions upon millions of dollars to the Communist Party of China to allow for their human rights violations, while taking a stand to pull Turning Red from Russia because human rights violations, we can't have a film released in Russia for the Russian people who have nothing to do mostly with what's going on in the war, and many of them probably are very much against the war. But no, we can't have that. We can't have them enjoy a film Turning Red, as I'm sure they're all looking forward to seeing a film called Turning Red in their own country, which has been given the moniker of Red previously. But no, they'll show their films in China, no problem, no problem whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to say the very least about what this film is able to do. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you think Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be able to be possibly another billion-dollar film, the next billion-dollar film after Spider-Man No Way Home? The fact that it's doing $400 million less than what we saw from Spider-Man in the domestic market makes me think that this probably will come in underneath $1 billion. But again, we'll have to wait for those actual numbers to start rolling in the beginning of May. And also, what are your thoughts about Father Stu or Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore? Do you think that these movies are going to be successes in their own right? I already got my ticket for a couple of films. I was able to get a ticket to Ambulance in IMAX, since that's the film that's taken over IMAX instead of Sonic this weekend. So I saw Sonic in the Big D format. Yeah. Jokes coming in the comments section. I've already seen them the last time I talked about it, but Ambulance is an IMAX, so I'm able to see that early next week. And also I was able to get a ticket to Father Stu, so I'll be able to see that before Holy Week starts, as my evenings and days will be dedicated to Holy Week. And I think I'm also traveling home during that time as well. So anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully you learned something, you liked something, and if you did, smash the like button, like that fire button on Odyssey. Y'all are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my April Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals members. Starting off with Patreon with Animation Commentator, Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Hymir Ari Hymeson, Inflamed Wood, Jacob from Holland, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Priscilla Hall, Rosella Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And also to my Subscribestar peeps, Matt317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand 4, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alice McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. And also a huge shout out to my Locals members, starting off with Kara Tharp, K Tharp 56. Also, UAB, Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Robert Barnes, and also a huge support as well to Brett D90. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Locals. Thank you again to everyone for supporting the channel. Please, if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out the top link at the video description. It is my Willow link, as I like to describe it, and it brings you to a link tree where you get access to all of these different locations, as well as all of the various social media platforms that you can follow me on. If you join at the Citizen of Asgard level, you get your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and video. Army of Asgard level gets you that, plus you get access to a giveaways channel that I have on Discord. If you ever don't have access to that giveaways channel, please contact me. I do send out the link to the Discord and with the instructions on it at the beginning of every single month. But if you don't have access to that giveaways channel where I'm giving away 4Ks and Blu-rays and all that kind of stuff, as much as I possibly can give away is available there. Please just reach out to me and I will gladly walk you through the process to make sure you get access to that giveaways channel. And again, that is, Army of Asgard level, whether you be on Patreon, Subscribestar, or on Locals. Also, if you are the keeper of the Bifrost level, you get access to all of that. Plus, you get access to a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. We try and do it once or twice a month. I think we're going to try and do it twice this month to make up for some miscommunication that we had last month. So be on the lookout for that, and look out for those podcast Q&A posts that are always available on the Patreon main page, the Subscribestar main page, on the YouTube side of things as well. The YouTube community tab, you'll always find the podcast Q&A there, and also on the Locals page as well. And if you join at the Chosen of Valhalla level, the highest of the levels, you get access to all of that. Plus, if it's your first month, you get a free t-shirt, any t-shirt you want from my Teespring, my TeePublic, whichever one you want to get it from. You just let me know the size, location I'm sending it to, color, that kind of stuff. You get it sent to you. Plus, you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we all come together and just talk about movies and really anything the Chosen want to talk about, and it is a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you all very much for your love and for your support. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.